Now this question says 45. Which of the following diagram best illustrates a function? All right, so the first one we're looking at, well, we can clearly see that you have one element in this is the domain and this is the range. You have one element in the domain mapping to two elements in the range. Cannot happen. One element in the domain must only map to one element in the range for it to be a function. In other words, it must be a 2-1 function. It can be a many to one or 1-to-1. This is a one to many, so that's not a function. Clearly we have each element in the domain being mapped to only one element in the range. So this is a 1-to-1, and once it's to 1, it is a function. Answer is B. We don't need to look at the others. Well, we can see that one is too many. And we can clearly see that we have one here going on to many. So we don't need to look at anything else regarding that. 46 and 47, we have a straight line AB. Okay, so we see going through A at -2 and B at 3 on the x-axis. The point where the straight line AB crosses the horizontal axis, the point where it crosses the horizontal axis. The horizontal axis is the x-axis, right? The point, this is a point. And the coordinates start with x first, and then the y coordinate will always be 0. Right? The y coordinate is 0 on the x-axis. And on the y-axis, x is 0. So we're going to keep those points in mind. So it's going to be 3, 0. That's A. They want the point itself where it crosses the x-axis, the horizontal axis. Straight line cuts. The equation of the straight line of AB is, which one of these would be the equation? Well, we need the gradient to determine that. And we need the y-intercept. The y-intercept is actually where the graph cuts the y-axis. That's -2. So it must be in this form, y equal mx plus c. So we know this portion here should be -2. So we can eliminate, but I think we're going to need more than that. We need to find the gradient. Unless they made it really easy for us. You see, we have all -2s, so we can't eliminate like that. Okay, fine. Let's find the gradient then. The gradient is really, well, if you look at this line is a right-hand diagonal. Think about a person, right hand, left hand. Which line would you think this is? It's the left hand or right hand? Of course, a right hand. So, in other words, it's sloping upwards. And so, we'll call that a positive gradient. So we can eliminate there. Well, this one has a negative gradient, so we can eliminate this one. So that doesn't give us much option. So we definitely have to find a gradient. So let's go. We have 2 points in 3, 0, and the next point here will be 0, -2. I always have to go with the x first. -2 is on the y-axis, so y is -2. To find a gradient now, we're going to subtract the y's and subtract the x's. In terms of the y's, we can say 0 minus -2. And then we can say, in terms of the x, we can say 3 minus 0. Now this will give us a positive. So that's going to be a +2. And 3 minus 0 is simply 3. So the gradient is actually 2/3. So 2/3 x minus 2 is the equation. Alright, so 2/3 is what we're looking for as the gradient. And so this is the equation they really wanted, really. Yeah. So that's the answer. 2/3 of x, and the y-intercept is -2. Let's look at 48. Question 48 and 49. Alright, so we can clearly see we have a quadratic graph, the parabola. Let's say the coordinates of the maximum point. If we look at the maximum point here, right, the maximum point is where the graph reaches its maximum. And so the x coordinate is 2, x equals 2. And look at the y value, which is 4. Remember, when you write it as a coordinate, it's going to be x first, so that's going to be 2, 4. So looking at this one, A is the answer. we look at the 49, they said the equation of the axis of symmetry of the quadratic function is which one? If we look at this graph here, the equation, the axis of symmetry will be which one? Well, the axis of symmetry is where the graph cuts through the parabola into two equal halves. So you cut it along this line right here. So you can see the parabola has been cut into two equal halves, right? Right, but notice where it cuts it on the x-axis through 2. So that's the equation is x equals 2. So that's what we're looking for. X equals 2 for the equation of the axis of symmetry. So this is our solution, 49. All right, let's look at 50. All right, so they want to find g inverse of -2 given that g is equal to that. Okay, so what we can do here, let's change this g of x to y. So we have y equals 7x minus 3 over 5. All right, so we can exchange. This would be 7y minus 3 over 5. And then what we could do from here, all right, so now that we've exchanged x and y, we're going to make y the subject. So we transfer the 5 with 5x equals 7y minus 3. Trying to isolate y, so we're going to remove the minus 3. So we're going to get 5x plus 3 equals 7y, and then we're going to divide by 7. And so we have y is equals to 5x plus 3 over 7. Now that y now is actually our g inverse of x. 5x plus 3 over 7. So clearly what we're seeing is that these guys exchanged, and this becomes a plus. All right, and so the g inverse of -2 would be, remember it's 5x plus 3 over 7. So it's going to be 5 times -2. Let me erase this. So it'd be 5 times -2 plus 3 over 7. That's -10 plus 3 over 7, which is going to be equal to -7 over 7, which is -1. So that's our solution. Here's another option, our way of doing this. All right, since we're looking at the inverse of -1, and we have -2 here, so this, what we could do, we could set this whole thing here, all right, to figure out what's the value of x that will produce a -2. All right, so we're going to substitute, we're going to replace the g of x with -2. And we have 7x minus 3 over 5. And then we're going to say, okay, transpose the 5, that's -2. The 5 moves from division to multiplication. Now that is -10. Now we're going to remove the 3 by adding 3 to both sides. So it was -10 plus 3 equals 7x. Looks like the -3 transposes as +3, right? So that's -7. Different signs you subtract, keep the sign before the 10, so we have more negatives than positive, in other words. Then divide by 7 on both sides, and so x equals -1. Okay, another option.